there. So I'm Ginny. I'm going to read to you today, and my buddy Jelly Belly decided he wanted to be on the cat tower today. So there he is. He likes climbing. So today's story is called Uncle Wiggily and the Dog. Uncle Wiggily's rheumatism was quite painful after he got wet in the fountain. You might remember that from the last story. And when he had thanked the mama catbird and her kitten birds for saving him, he found he could hardly walk, much less carry his heavy valise. "Oh, we'll help you," said Mrs. Catbird. "Here, Flitter and Flutter, you carry this satchel for Uncle Wiggily, and we'll take him to our house." "But Mama," said Flutter, who was getting to be quite a big bird boy, "Uncle Wiggily can't climb up a tree to our nest." "No, but we can make him a nice warm bed on the ground," said the mama bird. "So you and Flitter carry the satchel. Put a long blade of grass through the handle, and then each of you take hold of one end of the grass in your bills and fly away with it. Skimmer, you and Darty go on ahead and get something ready to eat, and I'll show Uncle Wiggily the way." So Flitter and Flutter, the two boy birds, flew away with the satchel. Skimmer and Darty, the girl birds, flew on ahead to set the table and put the tea kettle on the stove to boil. Mrs. Catbird flew slowly above Uncle Wiggily to show him the way. Well, pretty soon, not so very long, they came to where the birds lived, and those good bird children had already started to make a nest on the ground for the old gentleman rabbit. They had it almost finished, and by the time supper was ready, it was all done. Then came the meal, and those birds couldn't do enough for Uncle Wiggily because they liked him so much. When it got dark, they covered him all up with soft leaves in the nest on the ground, and there he slept till morning. His rheumatism wasn't quite so painful when, after breakfast, he had sat out in the warm sun for a while. So he said, "Well, I think I'll travel along now and see if I can find my fortune today. Perhaps I may, and if I do, I'll come back and bring you more peanuts." "Oh, that'll be fine and dandy," cried Flitter and Flutter and Skimmer and Darty. So they said goodbye to the old gentleman rabbit, and once more he started off. "My, I'm getting to be a great traveler," he thought, as he walked along through the woods and over the fields. "But though I have many adventures, I don't ever seem to get any place. Something always happens to me. I hope everything goes along nicely today." "But you just wait and see what takes place. I'm afraid something is going to happen very shortly, but it's not my fault, and all I can do is tell you exactly all about it. Wait, there, it's beginning to happen now." All of a sudden, as Uncle Wiggily was traveling along, he came to a place in the woods where a whole lot of gypsies had their wagons and tents. And on one tent, in which was an old brown and wrinkled gypsy woman, there was a sign which read, "Fortunes told here." "Ha! If they tell fortunes in that tent, perhaps the gypsy can tell me where to find mine," thought Uncle Wiggily. "I'll go up and ask her." Well, he was just going to the tent when he happened to think that perhaps the gypsy woman wouldn't understand rabbit talk. So he sat there in the bushes wondering what he had better do, when all at once, before he could wiggle his ears more than 4 times, a great, big, bad, ugly dog sprang at him, barking, oh, so loudly. "Come on, Browser," said this dog to another one. "Here's a fat rabbit that we can catch for dinner. Come on, let's chase him." Well, you can just imagine how frightened Uncle Wiggily was. He didn't sit there waiting for that dog to catch him either. Up jumped Uncle Wiggily with his crutch and his valise, and he hopped as hard and as fast as he could. My, how his legs did twist in and out. Come on, barked the first dog to the second one. I'm coming, woof, woof, bow, wow, 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 barked the second dog. Oof. You're getting nervous? I am getting a little scared. Poor Uncle Wiggily's heart beat faster and faster, and he didn't know which way to run. Every way he turned, the dogs were after him, and soon more of the savage animals came to join the first two, until all the dogs in that gypsy camp were chasing the poor old gentleman rabbit.
I guess I'll have to drop my satchel or my crutch, thought Uncle Wiggily. I can't carry them much farther. Still, I don't want to lose them.
So he held on to them a little longer, took a good breath, and ran on some more. He thought he saw a chance to escape by running across in front of the fortune-telling tent, and he started that way, but a gypsy man with a gun saw him and fired at him. Whew. I'm glad to say, however, that he didn't shoot Uncle Wiggily, or else I couldn't tell any more stories about him. Uncle Wiggily got safely past the tent, but the dogs were almost up to him now. One of them was just going to catch him by his left hind leg when one of the gypsy men cried out, "Grab him, Biter, grab him. We'll have rabbit pot pie for dinner. That's what we'll have." Biter, the bad dog, was just going to grab the rabbit when all of a sudden Uncle Wiggily saw a big hole in the ground.
"That's what I'm looking for," he exclaimed. "I'm going down there and hide away from these dogs."
So into the hole he popped, valise, crutch, and all. And oh, how glad he was to get into the cool, quiet darkness, leaving those savage, barking dogs outside. But wait a moment longer, if you please. Biter and Browser stopped short at the hole. "He's gone, gotten clean away," exclaimed Browser. "Isn't that too bad?"
"No, we'll get him yet,"
cried Biter.
"Here, you watch at this hole while I go get a pail of water. We'll pour the water in the hole under the ground where the rabbit is, and that will make him come out, and we'll eat him."
"Good," cried Browser. "I don't think that's good at all." Ooh. So while he stood there and watched, Biter went for the water. But mind you, Uncle Wiggily had sharp ears, and he heard what they were saying. And what do you think he did? What can you imagine he would do to get himself out of this mess? Well, with his sharp claws, he went right to work, and he dug and dug and dug in the back part of that underground place until he had made another hole far off from the first one. He crawled out of that hole with his crutch and valise, just as Biter was pouring water down the first hole.
"Ha ha! I think this will astonish those dogs,"
thought Uncle Wiggily, and he took a peep at them from behind a bush where they couldn't see him, and then he hopped on through the woods to look for more adventures, leaving the dogs still pouring water. Very clever, huh? And another adventure happened to Mr. Longears shortly after that, as I shall tell you on the next page. In case the rocking chair doesn't tip over backwards and spill out the sofa cushion into the rubber plant, the story will be about Uncle Wiggily and the monkey.